It's no secret that Pixel Gun's player count has been decreasing over the last few years, but the actual reason for this decline goes deeper than just a few pay-to-win weapons. Because it's not just one bad update, it's the consequence of years of small changes that changed how you play, progress, and compete, gradually adding up. If you ever felt like the game just doesn't feel the same, but you couldn't exactly figure out why, this is what caused it. But most creators never acknowledge this, and seem to avoid it. So I talked to the community to narrow it down to the most controversial and influential updates this game faced. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the game feels so different than how you remember. I also interviewed some of your favorite content creators at the end, and got their honest thoughts about the state of the game. By the way, I'm Drain. I make deep dive videos asking questions that nobody else does about games, with high quality video production. Without further ado, enjoy. If you played Pixel Gun for more than a few years, you most likely faced the problem of your loadout just not working like it used to. Even if you kept upgrading it as you leveled up, or even added modules on top of that, your weapons that used to be one tap now take 4 to 5 at a time. And surprisingly, it's not a skill issue. It's not that you got worse. The new weapons just got better, meaning regardless of how skilled you are, your loadout could very much hold you back. Older weapons like the anti-hero rifle or prototype just don't stand a chance compared to the newer weapons, even when they're maxed out with modules. Every time a new weapon or item like armor gets released, it's stronger in almost every way compared to the previous items. While older weapons like the anti-hero rifle only really offered the wall break attribute, newer snipers combine that with even more added buffs, like increased fire rate, effects like burning or poison, as well as just an overall increased base damage. Even though weapons with more attributes were slowly added over time it caused a pretty large gap between the weapons that were once the best of the best, going from a 1 to 2 shot kill to now 4 to 5. And now we've reached a point where it's been so long that using older weapons is just no longer viable, or at least without putting you at a huge disadvantage. Which kind of sucks because as much as I and a lot of other players love the look and sound of the prototype or anti-hero rifle specifically, it's just not worth using and being at a huge disadvantage. Regardless of how much you liked or used a weapon, everyone was basically forced into replacing it, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. While I did only mention weapons like the anti-hero rifle or prototype, they weren't the only ones affected by this. They were just the most common ones that did face this issue. The issue as a whole applies to everything, like your armor, weapons, and gadgets, meaning your entire loadout has to constantly be changed. But this pattern of having to keep up with regular weapon changes and new additions didn't just happen randomly. There was a clear and dedicated system behind it, and that system was the weapon upgrade system, which has always existed, but not the way it does today. Back then, upgrading weapons was a much shorter and faster process. Instead of going through 65 level upgrades, there were only 3. For example, the first level of the prototype was only called the prototype. However, the second upgrade was called Up 1. And the next and final upgrade that was technically the third upgrade was called Up 2. Despite the 3 on the buttstock of the gun. It's a bit confusing, but each level just increased the damage of the gun along with the slight increase in fire rate, capacity, and mobility. The weapon skins changing as you upgraded was a small detail a lot of people didn't even know existed. We saw the same thing with other weapons like the Desert Eagle, with the base version being a golden color, and the Up 2 version being a black and gray with yellow accents. This was a pretty small detail that obviously didn't change how you played the game, but I think it was a pretty cool piece of upgrade system history. The older version of the upgrade system was a little confusing and not very exciting to look at, but regardless of that, it was very straightforward for the most part. And most importantly, your weapon didn't fall behind as you leveled up, meaning you could actually use the weapon you wanted to without worrying about being at a huge disadvantage, just because you're not using whatever weapon was in the meta at the time, like we have today. But as most of you know, the system was slowly replaced over time, until it was completely replaced by the version we have today, around 2017. with the level upgrade system being tied to your experience level, and the introduction of the rarity system, with common and mythical weapons. This was just one of the many systems that players now had to manage added to the game. Instead of allowing players to just improve their aim and overall skills, they now had to learn those on top of keeping up with the constant changes. The change in weapon upgrades as a whole would foreshadow the future of weapons becoming temporary, which brings us to the issue we have today, of weapons becoming obsolete extremely quickly, despite how much currency or effort you put into maintaining them. This is where the parts update comes in, and is probably the most hated update in pixel gun history. This update changed how weapons were obtained and how the game was played entirely. Now instead of only level requirements to be able to purchase a weapon, you have to acquire parts to craft a specific weapon, making this more grind heavy than any other system this game has ever had. Unlocking a single weapon could take weeks, with the possibility of still not getting it. This is where a lot of people started to feel like the system was unfair, which is exactly what the community was against originally, with the increase of complaints regarding the growing skill gap between casuals and sweats. The introduction of the part system was already a pretty bad move, but the extremely low drop rate of parts and random rewards when trying to get the parts was an entirely different issue. For example, the Deep Sea Folk event we have right now. Say I want to craft the Blood Glass weapon. I can only obtain those specific parts from the fighter chest, which is the second most expensive chest in the entire lottery, with a less than 2% chance of getting the highest amount of 50 parts, while the weapon requires 250 parts in total to craft. The chances of getting the Blood Glass parts are small, but the chances of getting more than 10 parts for a weapon that takes 250 to craft is even lower. To really put these numbers into perspective, each match gives you roughly 2 to 4 keys. And to be fair, you can earn more keys through other challenges, but even getting 150 keys means you can only spin the fighter chest 3 times. And even if you somehow manage to get the max of 50 parts each spin, you would still be short 100 parts. On top of that, these lotteries only last 2 to 3 weeks on average. If there's any specific item you want from a lottery, you have no choice besides playing an unhealthy amount of the game for those 2 to 3 weeks, or just buy the keys for a ridiculous price, with both choices still leaving you to rely on RNG to actually get them. Now, even after hours of grinding, there's still a pretty fair chance you might not get it at all. So even if you do everything as the developers intended you to, there's still a pretty big chance that you'll walk away with nothing. And that part is what makes this system so hated. We only covered 3 updates so far, but even looking at these, you can already see the shift, and everything starts to connect in a way. Weapons became basically disposable, with the upgrade system forcing items into being obsolete every few updates. And now the parts system, making it more time-consuming and grind-heavy than ever. Even if you put in the unhealthy amount of hours needed, you still weren't guaranteed to get your desired weapon, or even any weapon at that. Now you're not even playing to enjoy the game like before, because you have to keep up with the constantly changing metas, and you're forced to grind unless you want to spend hundreds of dollars at a slightly better chance of getting a specific weapon. Instead of progressing like before, players are just desperately trying to keep up. Which is where the game not only felt different, but almost completely unrecognizable from what we once remembered. All of these changes paired arguably put the game at the lowest point it's ever been at. But the only way to go when you're at rock bottom is up. This specific update managed to send the game even further down, causing a lot of longtime players to finally make the decision to quit the game entirely. That being the Steam release. While a lot of people, including myself, were pretty excited for the Steam release, because the only way to actually play with mouse and keyboard controls before was through emulators that were extremely laggy. The hype surrounding the Steam release was pretty short-lived, because it introduced a problem that most players didn't even think about, which would change the game in a completely different way, that being the mobile and PC servers getting combined. It's pretty obvious why people didn't like this, since it created an extremely uneven playing field. PC players with 240 frames per second, a large monitor, and a top-of-the-line mouse and keyboard would clearly have the advantage, with not only faster reaction time but more precise aiming, over the people playing on a small phone screen with their finger. No matter how much aim assist you gave to the mobile players, or what overpowered weapons they used, they unfortunately would never be able to compete with PC players. who can consistently make precise movements every time. And that skill gap we discussed previously between the casual players and players who could 3-cat spam would almost seem minuscule now, compared to the mobile and PC skill gap we see today. And those same casual players didn't even have a slight chance at competing with today's sweats, who could 3-cat spam and were playing on a mouse and keyboard, which meant for a majority of the casual mobile player base, winning just wasn't realistic anymore. But don't just take it from me. I wanted to get some more opinions and perspectives on the topics we've already covered up until this point, so I interviewed some content creators who still play and upload content on the game, asking them 8 questions that'll capture their feelings surrounding the current state of the game. Question 1. When did you start playing Pixel Gun 3D?
I started playing Pixel Gun in November 2020.
I started playing in I think 2017 to 2018. I don't know exactly, it was around that time. I was 10 years old.
So I started playing the game around 2015 or 2016, one of those 2 years.
I think the first time I started playing Pixel Gun was around 2014 because one of my older cousins introduced me to it. Oh man, I was kind of like a casual player up until about 2020 where I completely stopped playing, and I came back in late 2022 on BlueStacks, and I've kind of been playing ever since.
At what point did Pixel Gun start feeling different for you? And what specifically changed?
What started to change in Pixel Gun was when the developers started to get more money hungry, because I played when the game was actually normal before it got pay to win, and then the developers got greedy and stuff. What specifically changed was my passion for the game after 2019.
Was definitely when they introduced the Steam release. It basically brought in crossplay, which divided the Pixel Gun community into 2 between mobile players and PC players. And the game's been mobile for all the years it's been out. So when they just suddenly released a PC version, everybody was kind of just going crazy. The entire game completely changed.
When big creators stopped posting Pixel Gun content,
The game used to be a lot more rewarding in terms of what you got for leveling up. Obviously that's not the case today because it's quite the opposite. You don't get rewarded, you get punished for leveling up. I'm not going to pretend that there was something revolutionary they were doing, but the game did feel kind of magical in 2014, and I think specifically around 2017 was the point where Pixel Gun did start feeling different. The game kind of got pay to win.
What's a weapon you used to love that just isn't viable anymore?
Probably the Ultimatum. I love the Ultimatum. It used to be super overpowered, and now it just doesn't live up to the hype.
I remember back in the days, everybody wanted to get the Prototype. It was a one-shot sniper, but even though Prototype was pretty overpowered, you could still do pretty well using weapons like dual machine guns or the automatic Peacemaker, brutal headhunter. Now it's the only way you could do good with those weapons is if you have X modules, and it kind of sucks that it's like that.
the Judge and Stinger.
The Sakura, man. The Sakura in 2023 used to be the best sniper. They did rebuff it recently, but the reason I can't use it is because of PC spread. Other than that, I'd probably say maybe the anti-champion rifle, because it just got completely swept up. It's just not worth using anymore.
Do you prefer the old upgrade system or the new level-based upgrade system?
Obviously, the old upgrade system is way better than the upgrade system we have today. Now you have to upgrade your weapons every single time you level up. You have no freedom to spend on anything else other than just upgrading your weapon. The 3-star upgrade system was so much better. Not only did every time you upgrade, it would have a new unique look. You only had to upgrade it 3 times and that was it.
I like the old Pixel Gun, but I also don't hate the modern one because it's more advanced, even though there's more pay to win.
Now, I'm actually going to say the level-based upgrade system, even though the level-based upgrade system sucks. And the reason for that is because the upgrade system that we used to have also sucks. A lot of the upgrade systems that they've had in this game. The UP1, UP2 system, as many pros as it had, the main con, and I feel like something massive, especially if they were to have kept it up till now, is the fact that you literally upgrade a gun twice and then you're done. Basically nothing else you can do to weapons.
Have you ever grinded for a weapon through the parts system and didn't get it?
I can name a million weapons, not on the top of my head, but there's so many weapons I grinded for that I didn't get in time. It felt horrible.
I don't really grind for weapons a lot, to be honest. I just know recently I was grinding for the ultimate killer. I was grinding this game for hours and hours each day. The game just would not give me the weapon. And it was a one-shot weapon too, so it kind of sucked.
No, anything I grind for, I get.
To be honest with you, no. I mean, obviously, I could say back when they first added parts weapons with the exoskeleton and Christmas sets, obviously I didn't get any of those, but it's not like I was grinding for them seriously anyway. Those weapons were literally impossible to get free to play, by the way. But I've never really had an experience grinding for a weapon through parts that I didn't end up getting.
Do you feel like you have to grind or spend money just to stay competitive?
Yes, super pay to win game. Yes, you have to grind or spend money.
Honestly, nowadays, Especially at the current state of the game, spending money isn't really necessary anymore to like get better. I mean, you could, but it feels more optional now. It's not like you have to. It's become more grinding over spending, which I think is a very good turn for Cubic Games.
No, people who have no skill will most likely buy upgrades and weapons, but I do believe you have to grind to stay competitive and stay good at the game.
I don't have to spend money to stay competitive. Grinding, however, obviously you have to grind. There is no such thing as a game where you don't have to do one of these things, which is grind or spend money, and you can still be good. No, like obviously you have to make up for the fact that you're not spending money by grinding.
How do you feel about mobile players playing against PC players?
I'm a mobile player, so it sucks. It sucks.
As a mobile player myself, it's pretty hard to win against PC players because movement and speed is a lot better and cleaner.
Mobile versus PC used to be fair. Well, I guess not fair, but somewhat fair. Back when the Steam version wasn't out yet. But with the Steam version, it's not even a debate. It is so unfair. So ridiculously unfair. 240Hz PC with 0 input delay versus mobile players who have worse graphics, worse everything, literally.
Why do you think players started quitting the game?
It's just not fun anymore. It's super pay to win. Like I said, for mobile players, it's not an enjoyable experience. We have to be put against all these PC players and it's just not fun.
Nothing new is really happening. It's just more weapons being added. There's already like over 1,500 weapons in the game. I really don't think we need any more weapons, to be honest. Probably like a few years back, people were still quitting the game. And I feel like for that reason, that's because the game was more pay to win back then. There were other small factors too. Yeah, I mean, problems were different overall between eras.
Because there are way too many ads and offers that pop up every 3 seconds. Also how bad the matchmaking is, as well as hackers and modders.
I think it's simply due to the fact that the community grew up. Also maybe a lack of updates, since the game has been relatively dry over the last like 4 or 5 years really. Like they haven't done anything major besides from just adding in new weapons, new pixel passes.
The conversation doesn't end there though. I want to hear your thoughts on the current state of the game. And when do you think it changed for the worst? With the game being more grind heavy than ever, and the only way to avoid dedicating half of your day to the game was by spending your hard-earned money on only a slight chance at getting a weapon, along with the constant release of newer and stronger weapons constantly shifting the meta, and the merge of mobile and PC servers. The game became more frustrating and less rewarding to play. Pixelgun was originally a game to just have a good time and an outlet from your day-to-day life. But it's now something that feels like a chore, and something you have to keep up with every day, resulting in the rapidly declining player base we have today. There's countless reasons people leave the game, but these updates not only caused people to leave the game, but also pushed newer players away from the game, resulting in more people leaving than new players joining. As much as I want to feel bad for the game, it's hard to. They were given countless chances by the community over the last 13 years, with more than enough time and endless amounts of feedback to actually change or improve the game. But the company opted for what would line their pockets over anything else in the end. If you like this video, you should subscribe. And YouTube thinks you should also watch this video. YouTube said it, not me. You have to watch it now.